Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mark and Kathleen. That's beautiful. My name is Michael Zsoldos, and I'm the service coordinator today, and I'm very happy to welcome you here to North Chapel on this beautiful, clear, for the moment, sunny Sunday morning. The theme of today's service are stories of imagination and amazement, and we'll hear reflections by Jenny Gelfan and Danelle Sims and Bob Williamson. If you're new to the North Chapel today, we welcome you. If you're visiting, please consider signing our guest book at the back of the sanctuary. We have hearing assistant devices and large print versions of the hymns in the order of service on the back table should you need them. And I'm not sure if there will be SE today. Does anybody know about that? Spiritual? No. So I think that we'll have to have the parents do the SE together downstairs today. I'm looking at Seth, my friend Seth Webb in the back, and Elizabeth, my wife here in the front. After the service, we invite you to visit with us on the front porch. Are we meeting on the front porch for lemonade this? Yes, we are. I'm getting nods from the back. We will meet for a coffee hour, a lemonade hour out there on the front porch. Let's see. There are a lot of things going on at the North Chapel this week, so you'll want to look at your events and activities on the back of your program. But I wanted to invite Diane to come up to talk about an announcement that she has, and then we'll hear from Mary.
Oh, they've been saved.
Monica is here.
Monica is here. Good morning, I'm Diane Mellinger. I'm the music director here. And firstly, I'd like to thank all the people who have pitched in for music over the summer while choir has been on recess. And choir will be starting up again on September 10th for Sunday service. And we will start our rehearsals on Thursday, September 7th from 4 to 5:30 here. If anyone is interested in joining, we're always looking for new people. So please, it can be on an intermittent basis. It's great if you can read music. It's if you can't read music, it's good if you can listen and follow along. So I appreciate any inquiries, and you can find my contact info in the order of service. Thank you.
I know this is in the order of service, but this is just a reminder that next Sunday after church, we will be having a potluck and pizza party. And pizza is great fun to make. The weather looks as though it's going to be good. So I hope there'll be a lot of kids who can help make pizza too. So looking forward to seeing you next week, and the details are in the order of service. Thanks.
In keeping of today's service theme, stories of imagination and amazement, I was drawn to this book, as I often am. It's called Free Play, Improvisation in Life and Art. And I find that whenever I need just a little jolt of inspiration, I read one or two pages, or sometimes just a paragraph from this amazing book by Stephen Nachmanovitch. And I'm going to read a passage to you right now. Every moment is precious, precisely because it is ephemeral and cannot be duplicated, retrieved, or captured. We think of precious things as those to be hoarded or preserved. In the performing arts, we want to record the beautiful, unexpected performance. So we schedule a rematch for the camera. Indeed, Many great performances have been recorded, and we are glad to have them. But I think the greatest performances always elude the camera, the tape recorder, the pen. They happen in the middle of the night, when the musician plays for one special friend under the moonlight. They happen in the dress rehearsal just before the play opens. The fact that improvisation vanishes makes us appreciate that every moment of life is unique. A kiss, a sunset, a dance, a joke. None will ever recur in the same way. Each happens only once in the history of the universe.
Good morning. Am I talking loud enough for y'all to hear? Okay. My name is Jenny Gelfan. In 1993, it's 30 years ago, I traveled to China for 2 weeks to study Tuina, a Chinese sports massage technique, at the Olympic Training Center in Beijing. The man who organized these trips was an American acupuncturist who himself had studied in China and was fluent in Mandarin. He had traveled extensively before and made all the arrangements: where we stayed, where we ate, how we traveled, our translators, and, when it was mandated, our minders. I had not thought much about what the trip might be like. I was oriented to the chance to tap for an advanced training and some bodywork techniques I could use on athletes, and the chance to explore somewhere novel. The only major oops on our trip was that the 2 weeks we were there coincided with the athletes and the trainers' annual vacation. But Ken arranged for us to study instead at an even better place, the orthopedic clinic of a hospital that used both Western and Eastern medicine techniques. Our journey from the Beijing airport to our hotel, and for many other trips, involved packing the 10 of us and all our gear into the Chinese version of a taxi, which was a very small van. We saw few cars, besides some other taxis on the road, which had many buses loaded to the brim and a lane for the river of bicycles. None with any fancy gears, most with passengers as well as the person pedaling, and some pulling a cart, their substitute for trucks. Delivery vehicles, including oxen-drawn carts, were only allowed on the streets at night. I also saw no locks on any bicycle in the vast bicycle parking lots. We were warned before the trip, bathrooms, except at the hotels, were basic. And if you wanted toilet paper or something to clean your hands, you had to bring your own. Drinkable water was purchased in a bottle or supplied as boiled water. I only learned a few phrases in Mandarin, and one was how to ask for boiled water, kai shui. The first morning we were in Beijing, our leader had suggested we meet him in the hotel lobby very early, and we walked on nice sidewalks, 12 blocks to the Tantian Park, a place where many, many residents of the city went to exercise before going to work. And most of the group went every morning, getting our own exercise. We saw individuals and classes doing Tai Chi, other martial and contemplative arts, jogging, playing hacky sack, various kinds of dancing, etc. We watched an old Tai Chi master fend off one after another of his young adult male students. Knowing I was a ballroom dancer, our leader translated, and a dance teacher there invited me to dance a cha-cha with him. One of the things I noticed right away in China was that when I made eye contact with someone, they stopped doing and just stood, maintaining that eye contact in a friendly way. Having no common language, nothing more really could take place. It was very different from the usual European eye avoidance. At the Gulden Hospital, in the morning we had lecture and demonstration, then a lunch break, and clinic in the afternoon. The doctors in this hospital used manipulative techniques, herbs, and acupuncture, as well as Western medicine. Patients got surgery, some with acupuncture rather than sedative drugs for anesthesia, and injections often included both herbs and Western medicines. The morning lectures focused on treatments for common orthopedic problems, necks, backs, knees, shoulders, etc. They were translated live, and often one of us was used as the practice patient for the demonstration. During the lunch break, we ate together in a cafeteria, including rice we had brought ourselves, since that was not traditionally served. For all our meals, we sat at big tables with a lazy Susan sort of thing in the middle, on which were put bowls and platters of food, none named. Fried melon was a common dish I'd never had before. We met people from all over the world who were there to study advanced acupuncture techniques. After lunch, we had time to relax and walk through the neighborhood. On some streets, vendors sold goods outside of 10 by 10 sheds that clearly also served as their homes. We saw road construction being done entirely by hand. In the clinic during the afternoon, conditions of patients were explained and the treatment techniques were demonstrated. Then one of us continued the treatment. It was very hands-on. People were mostly in their own clothes, sometimes pulled up to allow skin-to-skin contact. The hospital pharmacy was an amazing pantry with containers full of herbs which were weighed out and bagged to fill prescriptions, for instance, daily herbs to make teas, and taken for some period of time, as well as familiar vials of drugs and bottles of pills. Our translators and minders told us quite a bit. They liked their jobs, though it might not have been what they most wanted to do. Every adult had a job. Also, everyone got to go to school and had a place to live and was given health care. They had dreams, and in some cases, for instance, the doctors and nurses in that hospital, they got to live them. Of course, many things about their lives were not revealed. At the end of the day, when Ken was there, he took us to special places around Beijing, the old city, the forbidden city, shopping alleys, and the one and only coffee shop he knew about. Our excursions had to be squeezed in while there was still daylight, other than going to the Beijing opera performance one evening. Occasionally, one or a few of us went off on our own short adventures, but mostly it was wise to stay together since none of us spoke the language and few people we met spoke English. I carried a pamphlet with a picture of the hotel to show a taxi driver. I took a bus once with another woman who had been on an earlier educational trip and wanted to visit an athlete friend she had who spoke English. He told us what bus to take, how much to pay, and where to get off. We got on this crammed bus, deposited our coins, and the sea of people comfortably adjusted to fit 2 more in. Each stop was that way, people courteously moving to let others on and off. Towards the end of the second week, we left Beijing, rode a nice train to Nanjing, where many of the group went on a tour to visit something. But some of us, including me, wandered the streets exploring. Even in alleys, I never felt I was in any danger. Everyone was going from early morning until late at night. Eventually, everyone had overdone it, and one after another, we got colds. In Nanjing, we took a taxi van to Suzhou, the city of canals. This was the first place I saw countdown clocks for pedestrians. I was feeling pretty run down and wanted to not get sick before flying home, so I skipped going to the live traditional music performance. Someone bought me a cassette tape, and this kind of music is broadly available now and popular as a kind of relaxation music during bodywork. The following day, we traveled through agricultural countryside where everything seemed to be done by hand. And we got to Shanghai. That city was unbelievably crowded, with only a few cars still, many buses, bicycles, and pedestrians. Crossing the city to our hotel in the van took a very, very long time. We flew back to the US the following morning. That was 30 years ago. When I see that now in China, people own businesses, cars, have modern shops, I wonder how much of the measured pace remains with time to lock eyes with strangers and bicycles that people aren't afraid of leasing.
And now I'd like to invite Bob Williamson up for his reflection.
Thank you, Michael. First, I have to say, Kathleen and Mark, your music is beautiful. Sounds like summer sunshine. We need a lot of that. Thank you. This is a postcard from Spain. A little bit of travel, I guess, today, Jenny. My wife Joan and I had the good fortune of traveling to Spain in May. The occasion for our trip was to tag along with my brother-in-law, who was invited to give a guest lecture at Salamanca University. We covered a lot of ground by car. Believe me, there is much to see, unimaginable wonders. In Bilbao, architect Frank Gehry performed sorcery in steel, glass, and limestone. His Guggenheim Museum transformed an industrial backwater into a world-class city. Castles, monasteries, and centuries-old hill towns crown vistas like chess pieces. The Pyrenees Mountains rise up from the ground like the jawbone of a prehistoric carnivore, and the bewitching landscape unspools as far as you can see in green fields, red soil, and sun-gold poppies. You could picture Don Quixote and Sancho Panza riding across the land, or Ferdinand the Bull seated in the shade of a single tree smelling flowers. Joanna Long, that's for you. It's amazing, it really is. The same road that takes you to one of the world's greatest surfing spots, Mundaka, in the Basque region, where liquid jewels peel majestically shoreward like gifts from King Neptune. That same road passes through the site of one of the world's greatest atrocities, Guernica, immortalized by Picasso's searing masterpiece in black and white and gray. On April 26, 1937, Hitler's Luftwaffe, at Franco's request, carpet-bombed this town on Market Day, slaughtering men, women, and children, and leaving behind charred ruins. Historians called it a dress rehearsal for World War II. Survivors remained silent about Franco's role for years, even after his death in 1975. Guernica is rebuilt now and home to a thoughtful peace museum that poses essential questions about war and naked aggression. It makes one ponder Ukraine now, Spain in the 1930s, and armed conflict anywhere. Iraq, Rwanda, Vietnam, Troy, you name it. As the song says, when will they ever learn? I know, so easy to say, so hard to live. Our trip wasn't just a trail of tears. We discovered many treasures. Just up the coast from Mundaka at San Sebastian, one marvel emerged from the sea that was better than Botticelli's Venus. A young girl surfed. No, she really danced with the waves, with a grace that channeled both Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. She became human calligraphy flowing across a blue canvas, saltwater flamenco. In Salamanca's Grand Plaza Mayor, Spain's grandest plaza, sculpted medallions honor national heroes, writers like Cervantes, poets, philosophers, musicians, explorers, kings and queens like Isabella and Ferdinand. Franco's medallion lingered there until 2017, when it was finally and thankfully removed 42 years after his death. While that young woman surfer may never get a medallion in Salamanca, I'd like to think she carves her own story each day on the faces of waves up there in the Basque region. Esquerragasco, that's Basque for thank you. P.S. To feel Spain, when you get home today, cue up Miles Davis's Sketches of Spain on Google and lean back, close your eyes, and imagine you're almost there. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark and Kathleen. And now we'll hear from Danelle Sims.
Good morning. I need these. So, stories of imagination and amazement. The word in that I thought about and reflected on, which made me want to speak this morning, was just the word imagination. So it's not exactly just a story I have, other than I do a lot of internal work, thinking about me, who I am in the world and everything. And imagination is everything. The Buddha said thousands of years ago, the mind is everything. What you think, you become. And then years later, Shakespeare, in the voice of Hamlet, said, nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It's all in your head. It's all what you think. It's all in your imagination. And so there's three little bits of how I imagine myself in the world that I wanted to just touch on this morning. And I'm looking at the clock so I don't ramble on. The first is me and my connection with the divine. And the way I grew up in the Christian church, I don't really do the Christian thing as a label anymore. So it's taken me a while to be able to verbalize how I feel my connection with the divine. And ironically, my inspiration for this comes from Thomas Merton. And he was a Trappist monk. And I used to be married to a guy who's very into Thomas Merton. And there was a period of time we were listening to recordings of lectures he was giving the young monks. I don't think it's written down anywhere. It might be by now. It wasn't then. And his name was Father Louis in the monastery. And what he was, it was just an audio recording. There was no video, but he was telling the young monks that he sees that he has a Louis Christ within himself that is unique. And his job is to embody that in this world. And so the way I now talk about myself is that I have a unique aspect of the divine, like we all do. Everyone has a unique aspect of the divine within ourselves. And my job is to get to know this aspect of the divine, what it is, who I am, and be that in this world. And that's really how I walk day to day, is trying to do that, sometimes much better than others, but that's the goal. The second is how I imagine my connection with others. And this also is from Thomas Merton. This is in a book. What's the name of the book? I don't know. It was a book of, totally forgot the name of the book, but it was a book at the end of his, I think it might have been published after his death, of little bits of his writings. Do you know the name of the book? Okay. Anyway, in it it's sort of like his journal that he kept. And there's one famous little event that happened in his life that he wrote about in his journal. And it says, in Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut. I mean, because he was a Trappist monk, separated. Trappists were very austere and separate from the community. And he struggled with the whole separate togetherness thing. So the quote is, in Louisville, at the corner of 4th and Walnut, in the center of the shopping district, I was suddenly overwhelmed with the realization that I loved all of those people, that they were mine and I theirs, that we would not be alien to one another, even though we were total strangers. And that's it. You know, I look around and there's some people I know, some people I don't know, but we are all one. We are all connected. We are all part of this divine, loving universe together. And when I can remember that, I live a better life. And then the third thing is, oh wait, I didn't turn the page. Conjectures of a Guilty Bystander. That's the Thomas Merton book. If I turned the page, I would have seen my notes. Anyway, okay. The third thing is, when that connection with others isn't lovely, when I hurt others or when others hurt me, I've had some significant events where someone has hurt me deeply, someone I cared about, and how do you deal with that? You know, do you get angry? Do you, what do you do? And there's a Buddhist teaching, Thich Nhat Hanh has summed it up, encapsulated it very beautifully, that when we get angry, we suffer. If you really understand that, you will also be able to understand that when the other person is angry, it means that she is suffering. When someone insults you or behaves violently towards you, you have to be intelligent enough to see that the person suffers from his own violence and anger. But we tend to forget. We think that we are the only ones that suffer, and the other person is our oppressor. This is enough to make anger arise and to strengthen our desire to punish. We want to punish the other person because we suffer. Then we have anger in us, and we have violence in us, just as they do. When we see that our suffering and anger are no different from their suffering and anger, we will behave more compassionately. So understanding the other is understanding yourself, and understanding yourself is understanding the other person. Everything must begin with you. And I didn't ramble on a long time. That's it. Thank you.